Let's go back to Johnnie Johnson. I'm going to circle back to him because way before you got to him, back in kindergarten, I think you started on the accordion. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true.
And then moved to the piano and then stringed instruments. And you played behind a lot of people in St. Louis, and you ended up with Johnnie Johnson, and were like instrumental in the production of Rockin' 88's, one of the best albums ever made. Tell me about that a little bit.
Thank you for that, Dave.
Yeah.
I believe it was Oliver Sane who was contacted about Albert King's early recordings, okay? This guy in New York, Daniel Jakubowicz, had, I believe, bought the King labels, the word just slipped out of my brain, catalog.
Yeah.
So he was trying to research who played on Albert King's early recordings, and was in touch with Oliver Sane. And he had mentioned to Oliver Sane that, he's been doing all these reissues on his label, Modern Blues. He reissued Freddie King's stuff that was on King, did extensive liner notes and research, and, remastered it all and stuff. And so he said to Oliver that I would like to do my own recording for my label, bring out a new record. And he had mentioned Johnnie Johnson, and Oliver referred him to me. And so we struck up a conversation about doing an album with Johnny, and I can't remember, honestly, Dave, because it was so long ago, how it happened, but Johnny and I were playing in a group called The Secret Agenda, and we were playing over in Wood River. And it just so happened that we ran into Jimmy Vaughn. Now, that's not Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother. This is Jimmy Vaughn, the piano player who was with Bobby Bland, Little Milton and Albert King. And great piano player, and here he is, pops in out of nowhere, and that was a big deal. And then also there was a gig that Johnny couldn't make, and we got Clayton Love, and it was like, whoa. And he's going, well, let's do all three of them. Well, actually, it was Ike Turner who would have been one of the piano players, and Daniel Jakubowicz tried to get a release so that I could get out of jail for a day and come and record, but they would not allow it. So that's when I believe we went with Clayton Love. So, there was all kinds of telephone communication and things to be decided on, and all worked out. And basically what we did, he got all the recording equipment to St. Louis, and we recorded at Club Imperial. We turned it into a recording studio. Clayton Love actually didn't want to use me on guitar, and I was okay with it. I get it, Clayton, and he got Bo Shelby, which was great. I love Bo Shelby. He's a fabulous player and singer on his own right, but he played with Clayton, and we had Kenny Rice and Gus Thornton, drums and bass, and then Jimmy Vaughn didn't care for Kenny Rice. They had some kind of a problem, I'll just say, and that's where we got bellboy Chalmers Carter to play drums on Jimmy Vaughn's set. And then it was Gus and Kenny and myself and Vernon Guy on vocals with Johnny. And so we did a bunch of recording there, 2 days of recording at Club Imperial, and then Daniel took it all back home with him and took it down to Georgia or somewhere and mixed it and mastered and put it out. And actually, the song that I wrote for Johnny, and Johnny wrote it too, named for his wife, Frances, was actually used on a Broadway production in New York for, of all things, a Japanese dance troupe. And so I got a check, and it was right at Christmas when I needed a check from their royalties from their performance on Broadway, and there was our song, Frances, by Johnnie Johnson and Tom Maloney.
Interesting blend or pairing.
And all these other famous names, Cole Porter and stuff. And yeah, they did a dance routine to the song.
I love it.
And so, where that album is now, is Daniel Jakubowicz alive? I haven't gotten any royalties from it. I don't know who's getting the money for it, if it's still on the market.
I've seen it on YouTube.
Okay, and is that someone selling their copy?
No, it's probably somebody that just uploaded it, that bought it, or had a copy.
I know that all the things that we recorded did not make it to the album, so there was probably at least another album's worth of material that was not considered good enough or whatever. But now that everyone is dead, it would probably be worth it to hear it, And some of it I thought was actually pretty good. At least 3 or 4 of the songs I thought were good enough to be on there, but you could only put so much on it, so that was part of the reasoning. But I wasn't really involved in the post production.
Well, it's one of my favorite to this day albums.
And back to you, circling back to your question before about a St. Louis sound.
Yeah.
That might be an example. Another one that I think's a good example is a Larry Davis album, Something Funky or something like that.
Yeah.
That had a name, but it had Johnny, Oliver, Jimmy Hines, the drummer that was with Ike Turner on Billy Gales. Billy Gales was on drums. I mean, right there, that's
world class.
Yeah, but St. Louis,
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? These
Yes.
guys lived here and played here, and we all learned from watching these people.
Interesting parallel is that John McVeigh hooked up with Larry Davis and played with him long ago.
Yeah, he said lived at his house for a while, studying guitar with him.
Right, right.
Yeah. So the influence of these people is really worldwide.
And I think it still resonates today.
I do too. And the more people do the deep dives and stuff, that's why I really think these live interviews with people that were witnesses, actual face-to-face witnesses to it, when you hear it from a person who was there, they saw them, on stage doing this, doing that, it's just, it means so much more than reading it on a page of a book.
It's like living history.
It is. And, I'm going to have to write a book with all the things that I've seen and done. I'm not trying to say that I'm anything special, but it's really true that I looked at a list of all the people that I played with, and I was kind of amazed at it myself, like, damn,
Yeah. You're part of all that.
Well, I'm not going to say that, but I was there. You know,
Yeah.
I met these people. I played on stage with them, and you know, I've got a lot of stories to tell you, and a lot of it is good too. I mean, I more than once, quite a few times, I'd be on stage playing in these places in East St. Louis or wherever, and I'd notice, oh, I'm the only white guy on stage. But I never felt it. It was only by visual recognition that I would even become aware of it. Because I think musicians are this way, maybe other professions, but if you can do your job, that's all that matters. You know, just don't be a jerk. You know, just don't get drunk and throw up on the bandstand, or you know,
Right.
do your gig, and you're accepted.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I value that
Sure.
experience that
Sure.
so many of my friends that I grew up